voters have already been uncovered that are illegal aliens that are registered to vote in various jurisdictions in this country.
Yeah, and
that'll sway an election.
And the left always wants to focus on, well, it's very, very rare if a non-citizen votes in our elections. This is just a red herring. But the fact is, and I've said this many times, as long as there are non-citizens on the voting roll and there is a potential for them to vote, and in a lot of instances they have voted, that's one too many. And you would think that the Democrats would be on board on trying to make sure that those people don't vote. But of course, they turn it around into an argument that you're trying to not you're trying to make it hard and difficult for people to vote instead of making sure that our elections are secure. You know, you don't buy homeowners insurance after the event happens, after your house burns down or a tornado wipes it out. You buy it beforehand, and I think that's all the SAVE Act and a lot of these common sense measures is trying to make sure that non-citizens aren't voting in our elections. That's just common sense to me.
If you have proof, which we do, another headline today from the Federalist, Trump's declassified documents detail a massive Michigan voter registration fraud. If you have improperly registered voters, and you know that for a fact, and you prove that, isn't it a short logical step that if you have improper registered voters, then you have improper people voting in elections?
Yeah.
I mean, what are all these improperly registered people doing?
And I think in this day and age when most of our elections are very close and the country is divided, I would hate if I was a politician to lose a close vote because non-citizens or ineligible people voted. It's time to clean up the voting rules. It's common sense. This is an 80-20 issue. Even the Democrats believe that this is the case, and the Democrats really need to get on board and make sure that our elections are safe. Our democracy is at stake here, literally.
Isn't that what they always say? Yeah. Democracy is on the ballot. It literally is when you have people improperly registered to vote who could be improperly voting. Well, guess what? We're going to get a congressional view on this. Dr. Bob Onder, congressman from Missouri's 3rd Congressional District, will be joining us at 4:25, as he does every Friday. We'll ask him what he thought about the president's remarks. Does that change anything on Capitol Hill regarding the SAVE Act or not? We'll also ask the congressman about the vote this week to end Israel aid, which did fail and failed in dramatic fashion, but more Democrats than ever seem to want to throw Israel under the bus and blame them for all the world's problems.
Yeah, and also shows a divide within the Democratic Party because the rank and file, 103 Democrats, voted to slash the $3 billion aid. I think 90 voted against it. 10 did not vote at all. But you have the Democratic leadership in the House that voted to sustain that aid. And so, you know, that just shows a difference between the rank and file and the leadership. And as we know, the Democratic Socialists of America are literally taking over the Democratic Party, and they have said that they're not sure if they're going to vote for Hakeem Jeffries for minority or majority leader or speaker if they do take over the House.
Get your popcorn out. Dr. Bob will also tell us about his grilling of UCSF Chancellor Dr. Sam Hawgood. Chris, there are still people that are brave enough to go to Capitol Hill and tell Republican elected officials that men can have babies.
Yeah, amazing.
It really is. What's coming up in Chris's Corner at 4:45?
Yeah, I'm going to follow up on a case that happened in North County a year ago. If you remember the case on a Jennings schoolyard, a 14-year-old was shot and killed by a 16-year-old. That case has been adjudicated. It has a surprising turn to it, and I'm going to give us an update on that at 4:45. My title of the Chris's Corner is When a 14-year-old is shot dead by a 16-year-old, should his killer get a second chance before he gets a sentence? So we'll dive into that case. There's been a lot of juvenile crime happening here in the St. Louis area recently. We remember the horrific murders last weekend in East St. Louis by a 15 and 16-year-old, wiped out 5 family members. Nick Schroer, I think, has had some legislation to reform the juvenile justice system because it's based on a very outdated model. And I think this case that I'm going to talk about at 4:45 shows just how outdated the juvenile justice system is.
Weighty topic indeed. Very important topic at 4:45. At 5:07, I'm going to follow up on the president's speech last night and basically take the angle that electoral fraud is for real. Yeah, despite the protestations of the left, the media not wanting to even talk about the subject. They were all over Russian collusion, but now that the shoe's on the other foot, they want to ignore it. Electoral fraud is, unfortunately, for real. 525, Patrick Tuohey. Chris, the World Cup, all the tourists have left Kansas City, I guess. Mm-hmm. They've all headed out. We're going to ask Patrick Tuohey, what were the projections versus the reality of World Cup fever in Kansas City?
Yeah, I'd be very curious to see did they get an economic bump. How much was that economic bump having the World Cup matches in Kansas City? It'd be very interesting to hear about that and the crime prevention matters that were instituted during that important event.
Mm-hmm. And an update on a topic that was really hot last summer, but we really haven't heard much from yet or since. What's the latest? Is there a latest on the Kansas City Chiefs moving to Kansas? It's been really quiet since that special session here in Missouri. They had special sessions in Kansas. The Chiefs decided, I guess, to move to the Kansas side of the border, but there haven't been hardly any details on that. Is that actually still going to come to fruition? There was a recent press release about that matter. Patrick Tuohey is going to dig into that with us as well. And finally, what can Kansas City and St. Louis learn about crime fighting from Baltimore? Another city with a lot of similar issues.
Yeah, and similar governmental structure. St. Louis City and St. Louis County are separate, of course. They have that same government structure in Baltimore. You have Baltimore City and Baltimore County are separate.
Two separate jurisdictions completely, like Memphis as well. Not that many urban areas have that divide, but there are still some significant ones. Baltimore, Memphis, St. Louis. I think there's maybe a couple of others. 545, the moment the world has been waiting for. They're all going to be tuning in across the globe for Joey V's movie review of a movie that is several thousand years in the making, Homer's The Odyssey.
Yeah, this is the most anticipated movie of the entire year, and we'll find out if the 3-hour runtime is going to scare off Chris Arps. I don't know how big his bladder is.
It's not very big.
Oh, okay. Well, 5:45, I'll let you know how my bladder went then. We already have Chris's verdict.
Yes.
And it cost $250 million. They're putting another $125 million into the marketing. Will it make that money back? I'll let you know. 5:45.
We're going to find out if, despite the controversies about storylines and certain actors playing certain parts, does that all fade away? Is the movie so big that it overpowered over all that, or was it not? Joey V is going to answer all those questions.
There really hasn't been any blockbusters this summer. We're in the middle of the summer, and I think that's the first one. Is that correct?
You
Mr.
haven't seen a movie in 2 years, you
Yeah,
said?
but
So,
I watch,
you would know.
But we've got a guy here every Friday that does movie reviews, and so I don't really remember any huge blockbusters this summer.
Well, I'm not going to tell you about Michael Jackson making $1 billion then. I don't want to bother you with that information.
Was that the other big one, Joey? Because Supergirl was kind of a flop, wasn't it?
It was a flop. Women should not be involved in movies. I've said that since the beginning. Women are poison to the box office.
Joey V at newstalkstl.com.
Not Chris Arps or Tim Jones, Joey V.
Who saw Furiosa, that Mad Max movie? Nobody. Because a woman.
I kind of liked it.
There was a woman in it.
I kind of liked it. Is your girlfriend listening right now?
She is listening.
Okay.
She loves to. Well, no, actually, she only listens to 5:45.
She likes your humor. She likes your humor?
Most of the part.
Most of the time. What do you got on today? You've got, what is that? Your
I'm
T-shirt.
talking about my T-shirt? It's a big news day. I got a Ninja Turtles T-shirt because I'm going to see Ninja Turtles tonight at Tenacious Eats. That's where they give you a 6-course meal and you watch the movie, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited.
Is it going to be you there and a bunch of 8-year-olds?
No, actually, we're all 40-year-olds, Chris, who grew up in the 1990 Ninja Turtles area.
Okay.
It blew our minds, and we haven't stopped talking about it since. And it's at an arcade. Tenacious Eats at Two Plumbers Brewery tonight. Tickets are like $130, but I know a guy.
There you go.
Chris, I haven't seen a single Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. Have you?
I haven't. When Ninja Turtles was out, I was in my high school, early 20 years. But I do remember it. My brother, he was born in 1984, and all he ever wanted for his birthday and for Christmas was a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle toy. So I'm aware of it in that respect.
Mm-hmm. Something just flashed up behind you that reminded me to mention this as well. I was in Texas earlier this week, and there's a lot of coverage on this down there. Chris, they're dealing with epic historic flooding again in the same place they were last year.
The low country of Texas.
Thankfully, no camps this year were at risk. Uvalde, Texas, experiencing record dangerous flooding again. throughout Texas.
Yeah, and a little breaking news in the Senate, as you all know, Senator Graham's sister has taken over his Senate seat to fill out his term. Tim, she was forecasted as just being kind of a placeholder until they elect someone permanently. Well, news is coming out that she has reconsidered.
Whoa!
And she may actually run
Whoa.
for her brother's seat. And they have a truncated primary system, so the primary is in August. So I guess, can you have the power of incumbency when you've been in office for 3 weeks?
I guess Gene Carnahan kind of benefited from that, right?
Yeah.
A little bit. So if you want to know about that process, I'm glad you brought that up. We actually go through that on this weekend's edition of State Freedom Caucus Unfiltered. We have Representative Jordan Pace on with the South Carolina Freedom Caucus, and he walks us through the entire process. Chris, it's going to happen really fast.
Oh, yeah.
He said they have a primary scheduled in like a week or two, and then if somebody doesn't get 50%, they have a runoff like a week after that. He said the whole thing has to be wrapped up by August 11th in order for them to print the ballots for whoever's going to be that nominee for November. And there's a bunch of congressmen running, and they can't run for both seats at the same time. So he said there's a lot of dominoes that are potentially falling in the Palmetto State. And this could even affect, he said, the balance of power in the U.S. House, depending on who wins.
This sounds like a show that people should listen to this weekend. When will that air?
That's on Sundays at 7 p.m.
Okay.
Sundays at 7
listening.
p.m. And when's the Right Mind show? Saturdays at 4 or 5?
Saturdays at 5.
Saturdays
and
at
this
5.
is a huge one because Todd Showalter just came back from Michigan, and he hated every minute of it because he was with his family. So he would just say, oh, I'm bored, and go run on the beach for 5 or 6 hours. I think he made it to Chicago. And then he said, oh, I guess I got to go back.
I'm sure he does a lot of videos, though. I'm sure he did some videos.
I'm sure he did some videos. When you're up there in Lake Michigan, you got to talk about Bob Seger and Kid Rock and Eminem. All the cool people are from up there.
Very good. 4:22 in the p.m., Chris and I will have lots of questions that you're going to want to listen to when we speak with Dr. Bob Onder, the congressman for the 3rd Congressional District here in Missouri. Lots happened on Capitol Hill, and a lot is happening in the state of Missouri. The good congressman will join us next on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show here on a fancy Friday edition, 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
Like us on Facebook at News Talk STL.
You don't have to worry, 'cause baby, there ain't no mountain high enough, ain't no valley low enough, ain't no river wide enough to keep me from getting to you, baby. Remember the day.
From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. An isolated thundershower still possible into the evening before the sun sets, and then they fade away. Otherwise, Saturday through Tuesday, we have a heat advisory, a low of 76 on Saturday, 92 for the high with a heat index of 100. There is a 20% chance for a spot thundershower in the afternoon to early evening Saturday as well. Sunday, a 30% chance for shower storm. A weak front is in the area. Otherwise, hot and humid, a high of 91, heat index to 99. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
When Donald Trump needs conservative votes to help pass his agenda for Missouri, Representative Tricia Burns never answers the call. Tricia Burns has missed 370 votes. Burns is bucking President Trump's priorities. Burns did not vote to stop DEI initiatives, prevent China from owning Missouri land, defund Planned Parenthood, and Burns did not vote to ban boys from girls' sports. Tricia Burns not showing up for Missouri and President Trump. Instead, Tricia Burns spends her time pulling pranks on the Suicide Prevention Hotline. Yes, you heard that right. Tricia Burns lied to the police and staged a fake suicide emergency. She sent a series of messages to the hotline and said she, quote, had a gun to her head, end quote. When she got caught, she said there'd be no consequences because she's a politician. By August 4th, vote to show Tricia Burns that there are consequences to being bad at your job. Cut the Bullpack paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Not authorized by any candidate or candidate committee.
When you count on Connor, you're getting the timeless American values that have guided our company from day one. Hard work, impeccable service, and honesty. At Connor Roofing, you aren't just getting a roof, you're getting safeguarded by a neighbor who cares. When you count on Connor, you're receiving protection for your home, your family, and your peace of mind.
Visit ConnorRoofing.com. This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Hey, meanwhile, more than 100 House Democrats voting against providing U.S. aid to Israel. It's a shift from 2 years ago when 37 voted this way, and 10 years ago when none of them voted against Israeli aid. And now AOC is warning the rest of her party to get in line.
The majority of Democrats now have shifted where we are on this issue with respect to Israel, that the U.S. cannot continue to finance a reckless government that has no regard for human rights.
Dr. Bob Onder, Congressman for Missouri's 3rd District.
We're calling Dr. Bob. We're calling Dr. Bob. Dr. Bob.
Dr. Bob, how are you on this hot Friday afternoon?
I'm doing well, Chris. In the air conditioning, doing some work at my desk, at my home office. But yes, I'm doing okay. But man, I'd be melting if I were out there.
Doc, you heard that clip there. Democrats, 103 of them, of your colleagues, voted against Israeli aid. Probably the big story within that story is that the Democratic leadership did vote in favor of that aid. I want to ask you a question. You know, the Democrats say that they're against the policies of this Israeli government headed by Benjamin Netanyahu. Do you think if Netanyahu was replaced and they got a more left-leaning government, do you think the Democrats' feelings toward Israel, slashing aid, things of that nature would change? Or is this something systemic within the Democratic Party trending towards a anti-Semitic bent?
Yeah, Chris, I mean, that is a really good question because, there's no question that Netanyahu is a hawk. I think in that respect, to some ways, he is more hawkish than the Israeli people at large. I remember when I was in Israel last summer, this was before the Israelis went into Gaza. There was a poll, and 75% of Israelis opposed going into Gaza, and yet Netanyahu did so anyway. But somehow he manages to win elections. They have a parliamentary system to put together the coalition he needs to stay in power. But I fear, Chris, that even if they had a liberal government like President Herzog, for instance, were prime minister. I've got a feeling the Democrats' position regarding Israel would not change. What's really ironic about the Israelis or the Democrats' position on Israel is Democrats love foreign aid in every other way. They think we should send oodles of money to UN, oodles of money to Ukraine and to NATO and so on. But they single out Israel as the one country where foreign aid needs to be defunded. And then they go on and on about genocide. I mean, I'll tell you, the Israelis aren't running a very effective genocide. They supply electricity and water to Gaza. If they wanted to kill all the Gazans, they could cut off the electricity and water. They don't. Mm-hmm. Look, war is a very ugly thing. Has there been immense civilian suffering in Gaza? Yes, there has been. But I do fear what you hinted at, that there's an element of anti-Semitism spreading in the Democrat left. I fear that is the case.
Congressman, if you remember, and Tim and I were over at Israel with you last summer.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We were there at the same time. Yes. Yes, that was and of course Jerusalem. Mm-hmm. Another thing I think the Democrats miss, if their big concern is genocide, Why do we not hear a peep about out of the Democrats about the genocide, attempted genocide of Christians in Nigeria? Why do we not hear a peep about the Uyghurs or the Falun Gong, and they're subject to really confinement to concentration camps, executions, and even forced organ harvesting. And yet somehow the Democrats obsess about Israel, one of our most vital allies, and say not a word about other just as bad or worse situations around the world.
Yeah, Bob, the three of us trying to put the Democrats on the couch and figure out what's in their brains is probably a fool's errand, right? Because you just gave us a bunch of examples where the Democrats do not care about the oppressed class, right? So if they want to argue, well, although it's hard to find a bigger super minority than the Israelis, right? They're surrounded by seven nations that don't really care for them much. Although most of the Arabs in the area are getting a little better and progressing a little bit more towards sanity. But Bob, right? If they want to stand up for the poor Gazans or the Palestinians, then why don't they stand up for the other people that you mentioned in other parts of the world?
The Nigerians, the Uyghurs, yes.
Yeah, and Bob, the Gazans and the Palestinians are connected to the Iranians.
Israel is a nation of 8 million people, surrounded by many, many, many more who hate them. And I asked this in all seriousness. I didn't mean to be glib, but if they regard Israeli activity in the West Bank or in Gaza as being a quote genocide, what do you regard? What is it when over 10,000 missiles are lobbed into Israel, targeting civilians, and somehow that doesn't count? That's justifiable because the Israelis are so awful. I don't. Again, the Middle East is a very, very complicated place. It's very, very nasty things go on over there. But yes, there's so many Israel haters who obsess about the suffering of the Palestinians in the West Bank, but they almost defend the true genocide that happened on October 7th when Gazans killed Israelis. So there's a lot of hypocrisy here. But for whatever reason, the Palestinians are the cause célèbre for today's Democrat Party, and the Jews are the bad guys.
Speaking with Dr. Bob Onder, Congressman, of course, for Missouri's 3rd District. Congressman, we know that your House colleagues are working on Reconciliation 3.0. There's even been talk of a Reconciliation 4.0. Majority Leader John Thune has said that there's lukewarm support for a 3.0 reconciliation bill. There's also reports that Jason Smith was not happy with the package that was sent over because he felt that tax riders were left out of it. What is the progress for 3.0 and possibly 4.0?
Yeah. Well, the prospect of 3.0 first, although, for whatever reason, more of our, weakling senators don't have an appetite to do electoral reform, despite the case that President Trump laid out last night. They do want to fund our military, and I think most of them want to give the farmers relief because of what they're suffering regarding input prices because of the high price of oil, and then, of course, restrictions in their ability to sell their goods abroad because of trade policy. I think that if senators want to fund the military, which I think we all should want to do, well, they're going to have to work with the House to do the things we want to do, which include the Save America Act. And then 4.0, you only get so many bites at the apple. I think we should do everything we need to do now, and I think it's going to be a hard to pass 3.0, and then a fourth reconciliation package. between now and Election Day, that seems even less likely. So, we'll see. We'll see.
Speaking to Congressman Dr. Bob Onder. Bob, the president gave a primetime address that most of the national left-leaning media decided to ignore in an historical fashion. Bob, I remember that Barack Obama gave a big address about Russian interference in our election. Turned out the whole Russian collusion delusion was just that. Donald Trump decides to start talking about communist China, who many experts, nonpartisan experts, believe is an existential threat. We know that they try to rip off everything that we make, create, our military hardware, our intellectual property. Bob, is it really beyond the pale to think that Donald Trump is barking up a tree about the fact that the Chinese want to affect our electoral system?
Yeah, don't forget they're poisoning us with fentanyl, and then they fed medical researchers, false data that resulted in advocacy for COVID shutdowns that did so much devastation to our country. Yes, the Chinese military strategists refer to what they are up to as total war against the United States. So, no, it is not implausible. And last night, Trump brought the receipts. He declassified a whole trove of intelligent documents that show that the Chinese were attempting to, whether they pulled the trigger, it's not quite clear. They were trying to interfere with or influence the 2020 election, whereas Obama's speech and the Russia collusion nonsense was a complete hoax. Yes, they found these documents document that the Chinese government acquired 220 million U.S. voter files during the 2020 cycle. I mean, can you imagine that? Tim, Chris, the three of us, we are in some Chinese database right now somewhere, assuming we're one of those 220 million voters, which undoubtedly we are. And we also, President Trump also produced documents that 280,000 non-citizen were registered to vote. So the mainstream media today is breathlessly saying, well, just because the Chinese have the records doesn't mean they doesn't mean they did anything with it. Just because 280,000 non-citizens are on the voter rolls doesn't mean they're really voting or they're really changing the outcome of elections. Give me a break. Isn't that the first step? Get the non-citizens registered, and then they'll be voting sooner or later. So it's ridiculous. Trump emphasized just how vulnerable our elections continue to be. Look, with regarding Save America, 176 countries require voter ID, including most of Europe, all of South America, Mexico. 80% of voters support voter ID, including over 70% of Democrats, over 70% of Hispanics, over 80% of blacks. It's time to do it. And, just opposing election integrity just must mean you want to cheat.
Congressman, it's July 17th. There are about 10 legislative days left until the August recess, where Congress takes that entire month off. The fiscal year, of course, ends on October 1st. Speaker Johnson says that he wants the House to pass a stopgap measure funding the government through the midterms. Is that the likely course of action here?
Yeah, I think that's the likely course of action. I think that's a good idea. Having a government shutdown right before Election Day isn't good for anyone. It certainly isn't good for the party in power. But again, these endless, the election, the current budget goes through September 30th. So, having a shutdown beginning on October 1st, it would be bad politics. But worse than that, it would be more suffering on the part of the American people. And look, we know that the Democrats are more than happy. In fact, they seem downright eager to inflict pain on the American people. We had a 43-day shutdown of the entire government last fall, and then we had a 115-day shutdown of funding to the Department to ICE and then to Border Patrol. We cannot have the Democrats weaponizing the withholding of funds, when in order to get their policy preferences like open borders.
Bob, after the last major election in 2024, and after seeing all the polling on the issue of the transgender mutilation industry, Bob, you would think that everybody would have gotten the memo by now. But you learned this past week in your interrogation of UCSF Chancellor Dr. Sam Hawgood up on Capitol Hill that there's people still literally saying in public before Congress that biological men can have babies.
Yeah, that was really a good one. I remember walking into the hearing. Right, I had a couple of hearings going on simultaneously. I walked into that one as a Dr. Hawgood, and remember all three of these medical school deans who were before us. They all had medical degrees, and I would have loved to have questioned those three nimwits for a couple of hours, but yeah, in replying to Representative Mary Miller of Illinois, he said, "Yes, I admit that most people who have babies are women."
Most.
Like, okay, most. Most. And, of course, it begs the question, you graduated from med school in 1987. Did they teach you that men could have babies in 1987? I assure you that was the year I graduated. They did not teach us such nonsense. I asked all three of the deans whether their medical schools were still doing transgender mutilation on children, despite the actions making it clear that it is illegal to do so, given current executive actions by the Trump administration. Two of the three said that their schools had stopped doing surgical mutilation of children, but all three one I guess was agnostic about whether they were still poisoning kids with puberty blockers and wrong sex hormones. The other two said, "Yep, we're going full speed ahead on the chemical castration of kids." The good news this week, though, is that on Thursday, we passed out of the House Judiciary Committee my Chloe Cole Act to put into statute permanent protections of kids against these quacks and these groomers, and a legal cause of action to recover damages for the quacks who did do so much harm to our kids.
Congressman, we touched a bit on this last week, but the House made it official. They passed legislation to make daylight saving time permanent.
Yeah.
But it faces a lot of opposition in the Senate. Senator Tom Cotton said he opposes the bill because he says it harms school children commuting in the dark and people working outdoors in the early morning. Your thoughts?
Yeah. I suppose there is some merit to that point of view. I believe a number of medical groups, and I tend to lean this way myself, thinking that the best option would be permanent standard time.
Mm-hmm.
But either way, I think we need to stop this flipping of our clocks backwards and forwards every spring and every fall. It's confusing. It puts us out of sync with the rest of the world, and it has documented health effects. There are excess heart attacks and strokes during these flipping back and forth periods. I mean, our kids do, and relatively few kids walk to school anymore. But I know that I see kids in the winter, of course, at the bus stops, waiting for their buses in the dark. I think in all these things, I think you have to be careful. You have to be prudent. But I think we really need to get rid of this silliness of flipping our clocks back and forth.
And that is Dr. and Congressman Bob Onder. He is Missouri's 3rd District Congressman. You can reach him on the net at onder.house.gov and on X, Bob Onder, M.O. Congressman, thank you as always for your time. Have a great weekend, and we'll speak with you next Friday.
Thank you. Likewise. Look forward to it.
All right, 444, Chris's Corner. When a 14-year-old is dead, should his killer get a second chance before he gets a sentence? We'll dive into that next on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps, driving the leftist crazy all afternoon. From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. An isolated thundershower still possible into the evening before the sun sets, and then they fade away. Otherwise, Saturday through Tuesday, we have a heat advisory, a low of 76 on Saturday, 92 for the high with a heat index of 100. There is a 20% chance for a spot thundershower in the afternoon to early evening Saturday as well. Sunday, a 30% chance for shower or storm. A weak front is in the area. Otherwise, hot and humid, a high of 91, heat index to 99. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
On the next,
Larry Connors, USA.
The story behind the story. 1996, just off the coast of New York, TWA Flight 800 exploded.
Larry Connors, USA. Now, weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL.
Hey, how you feeling these days? Aches and pains? You got a bum knee? Is your elbow bothering you? Have you been in an accident recently? Are you recovering from surgery? Do you just want to be a healthier, better you? I've got your one-stop shop for all of those things. They can take care of all your maladies and more. They can also do lots of maintenance so you just stay in shape. Comprehensive chiropractic. Comprehensive chiropractic and sports performance. My very good friend, Dr. Pat Fader, I'm not just saying that. We've known each other forever, is the founder and the principal owner of Comprehensive Chiropractic. He's got a whole crew of great docs there. I see them all, so I can tell you about all of them because I don't know which one you're going to see. Dr. Fader's great. He's fantastic. He is the OG. He's also got Dr. Caleb Gorman there, Dr. Benton. They're great docs as well. I see all three of them. They all have their own unique styles, but they all know how to do one thing, make you feel better. They've made me feel better on a multitude of occasions, right? Doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter if you're younger. So I've been seeing Dr. Fader for so long that I can say they help young people because I was much younger when I started seeing him. They can help older people. I'm a little bit older now. They can help everybody in between. They can help athletes. They can help weekend warriors. Sports performance is the second part of their name. So these are active healthcare providers. These guys are all in great shape. Their whole staff is. You walk in there, you feel like you're walking into like a top-notch gym, but they're there to help you. Very approachable people. They want you to feel as good as they know they can help you feel good. So they can take care of your joints. They can take care of your entire musculoskeletal system. They can help you get in shape. Upstairs is the studio. Big, beautiful space, huge skylights, really fantastic. Pilates, yoga, other disciplines. They have licensed massage therapists. They also have dry needling. They do that. That's one of their disciplines. It's kind of like acupuncture. And they can help you with your supplements, with your health, with what you're putting into your body. They really want to get to know the whole you and how to make the whole you function and feel better, right? We have nothing if we don't have our health, right? And our mobility is so key to living a long, fruitful, productive, healthy life. Go to Comprehensive Chiropractic. You will feel better for it, I promise you. SeeChiropractic.com, SeeChiropractic.com for all your comprehensive healthcare needs.
Let's take a break.
Good idea.
Hey, Tom, what are you doing on that Amendment 4?
You know we fought for our freedom and rights. I'm not giving them away without a fight.
4 takes them?
That's exactly what 4 does. For over 100 years, Missouri voters have used our constitutional power to act when the politicians refused. I'll be darned if I'm voting to pass on less freedom and power to my kids.
And doesn't 4 also kill majority rule?
Yup. Creates minority rule, or just 5% of the most liberal statewide voters in one Missouri congressional district that block any citizen-led reform, making it nearly impossible to pass common-sense conservative citizen ballot measures.
That's crazy town stuff.
And we've needed our citizen ballot measure power to pass some big conservative stuff, like outlawing tax hikes without voter approval, lobbyist reforms, and term limits for career politicians.
No way I'm letting a tiny fraction of liberals derail our conservative power. I'm no on Amendment 4.
Hard no on 4.
Petty 4 buttons are inch per care governance.
When decisions matter most, experience isn't optional.
Tim Whitney has spent nearly 24 years serving Jefferson County through the Sheriff's Office. As a former SWAT commander, he has led under pressure, made critical decisions, and understood what it means to be prepared when leadership matters most. Today, as Undersheriff and Chief Financial Officer, Tim helps lead hundreds of employees, manages one of the county's largest budgets, and protects taxpayers with conservative accountability. Tim Whitney brings the kind of real-world executive experience Jefferson County needs in its next county executive.
I'm Tim Whitney. Jefferson County isn't just where I've served. It's where my wife and I are raising our family, and we've chosen to build our life. I'm running for county executive because I believe our county's future matters. Together we can support responsible growth, strengthen public safety, protect taxpayers, and preserve the character that makes Jefferson County home. I'd be honored to earn your vote.
Paid for by Friends of Tim Whitney, Heather Missy Treasurer.
At Body of Health, we're a small but mighty family operation with big ambitions for your health. I'm Helene Tobler, and I'm jazzed about how our MRI-grade body composition analyzer is putting personalized health and wellness on steroids. It helps me and Dr. Tobler, that's my husband, refine the advice we give to help you feel better and live longer. Body of Health, trusted, discerning, affordable health care the way it ought to be. Learn more at bodyofhealth.com. That's bodyofhealth.com.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Got out of town on a boat on the southern islands.
Just 2 hours ago, we learned a teen charged with stabbing and killing a 14-year-old in Jennings will not go to an adult prison. Darnell Warner was charged as an adult last year in the killing of Justin Brooks near Jennings Junior High School. The St. Louis County Court says Warner will now stay in custody at a Division of Youth Services facility. He will get counseling and schooling. A judge could decide to give him probation or send him to prison when he turns 21.
Chris.
And if you don't know, now you know.
And now, Chris's Corner.
There was a time when America's juvenile justice system made a certain kind of sense. A teenager shoplifts, a kid gets into fights, a troubled young person makes a serious mistake, and society decides that rehabilitation may be more valuable than throwing away the rest of his life. I understand that philosophy. But what happens when the juvenile justice system, designed for youthful mistakes, collides with the kind of violent crime that leaves another child dead? That's the question raised by the case of Darnell Warner. Warner was 16 years old when he fatally stabbed 14-year-old Justin Brooks in the chest during a chaotic fight in Jennings in March of 2024. Now Warner has pleaded guilty to first-degree involuntary manslaughter, but instead of immediately serving an adult prison sentence, he has been accepted into Missouri's dual jurisdiction program. That means he can remain in the custody of the Division of Youth Services, receiving counseling, education, vocational training, and other services. When he turns 21, a judge can decide whether he goes on probation or serves 7 years in adult prison. His attorney calls him, quote, a really good kid, and says Warner maintained that he acted in self-defense. The defense says he has taken responsibility for acting recklessly. And according to the Post-Dispatch account, the victim's family did not object to the sentence. All of that deserves to be part of the story, but so does this. A 14-year-old boy is dead, and Warner's history reportedly wasn't limited to this single event. The judge who certified him as an adult cited previous juvenile court referrals involving allegations that included assault, stealing, resisting arrest, and property damage. At some point, we have to ask whether parts of our juvenile justice system were built for another time and another place. Because when many of these laws and programs were conceived, I don't believe policymakers envisioned the level of youth violence we're confronting today, or teenagers committing crimes serious enough that the victim themselves never get the opportunity to grow up. I'm a believer in redemption. I'm a believer in rehabilitation, but rehabilitation and punishment are not mutually exclusive. You can believe a 16-year-old has the capacity to change and still believe that taking another person's life carries consequences. In my view, Warner should serve prison time. Maybe his age should matter when determining how much time. Maybe his conduct while incarcerated should matter. His educational progress should certainly count when judges eventually consider his future. But avoiding prison altogether, I think that sends the wrong message. And there's another case in this story that should make lawmakers pay attention. According to the Post-Dispatch, another young offender, Joshua Hageley, was placed in a youth program after being charged in the 2019 shooting death of a 14-year-old. His probation was later revoked, and he served a prison sentence. After his release, he was charged with murder in connection with a botched robbery, though prosecutors later dropped several charges because of an uncooperative witness, and he ultimately pleaded guilty to tampering with physical evidence. One case doesn't prove that rehabilitation programs don't work, but it does prove that getting these decisions wrong can have consequences. Missouri lawmakers should take a serious look at the dual jurisdiction program and the broader juvenile justice system. There should be a fundamental distinction between young people who commit crimes because of immaturity and poor judgment and young offenders convicted of crimes that result in someone else's death. The juvenile justice system should still offer second chances, but a second chance for the offender cannot become our first consideration when another family has already lost a child. Darnell Warner may deserve an opportunity to rebuild his life someday. Justin Brooks will never get that opportunity, and our justice system should never lose sight of that. And that is Chris's Corner, and I ask you to follow me on X at Chris_Arps and on Facebook, Christopher Arps Politics. Tim, as a former prosecutor, I'm sure you have a few thoughts on the juvenile justice system, and in this case in particular.
It should be notable that in cases like this, compassion should not trump justice, right? And I know that sounds really tough, and some people may say that that's hard-hearted, but I think that oftentimes there's too much focus in today's world on whether or not we can rehabilitate the perpetrator or the defendant, and the victim and their family and all their loss is quickly forgotten.
I agree 100%. All right, we have the Speaker's Stone speech at 5:06.
I'm going to talk about the fact that election fraud, it's for real.
We'll have our weekly visit with Patrick Tuohey. Of course, he's the senior fellow at the Show Me Institute. We'll talk about the KC World Cup projections versus reality. Are the Chiefs actually leaving Kansas City? And what can St. Louis and KC learn about crime fighting from Baltimore? And what you've all been waiting for, Joey V reviews the movie, The Odyssey. How many toasted rafts out of 5 will Joey give it? You have to stick around and find out. You're listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL. Number 1 for live and local conservative talk.
Follow the rules and get absolutely slammed by taxes. Your paycheck, taxed. Your property, taxed. Everything you buy, taxed. Missouri's tax system isn't broken, it's rigged against you. The lawyers and lobbyists working for big corporations and the super rich buried over 200 loopholes for themselves in our tax code. While they pay nothing on the services they use, working families are taxed over and over. It's no wonder they're lying about Amendment 5. Our corrupt tax system is rigged in their favor. They're getting a free ride on your back. Don't believe their lies. The truth is, Amendment 5 closes loopholes exploited by the super rich and slashes taxes paid by Missouri's working families, phasing out income taxes and cutting property taxes. They finally pay what they owe while you keep what you earn. Vote yes on Amendment 5. Paid for by Missouri Promise PAC.
License number GL2500615.
Hey, Dad, what causes drains to clog?
Grease, hair, soap scum, and tree roots.
Tree roots?
This town has old pipes and big trees. They find each other.
They grow inside pipes?
They bust into pipes.
Whoa.
Once they're in, the water stops flowing.
Can we fix it?
The big green grasser machine can fix any clog.
Green is always grasser at grasserhomeservices.com.
News Talk STL is celebrating our 5th birthday. And we're giving away a limited edition News Talk STL America 250 t-shirts. It's exclusive, it's collectible, and it could be yours. Just head to newstalkstl.com to register.
Happy birthday!
Happy birthday, News Talk.
Been listening since day one. Happy birthday to my talk station.
5 years, happy birthday.
News Talk
STL. News Talk STL. Happy birthday to us and good luck to you.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green.
This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at
newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from Town Hall. I'm Keith Peters in Washington. After President Trump's speech last night on what he called election fraud, Secretary of Homeland Security Mark Wayne Mullen says they will implement new security measures for elections.
Our cybersecurity team and CISA will release an updated election infrastructure plan, and it'll be public within 30 days, meaning that'll give the states the resources they need to help from the cyber side. From us, if they participate in the SAVE program, we'll provide the resources and training to support state election integrity. We're not trying to change the outcome. We're trying to make sure that American people can trust our voting system.
The remarks could increase doubts about election processes ahead of November midterm elections that will determine control of Congress. The Trump administration is changing how long foreign journalists can stay and work in the U.S., replacing the current duration of status system with fixed periods.
The Department of Homeland Security says it's shortening visas for most foreign journalists to 240 days, down from stays of up to 5 years. Journalists from China will face even stricter limits, with visas capped at 90 days, prompting Beijing to warn of possible reciprocal countermeasures. While visas can still be extended, the change has raised concerns over press freedom. Advocates for foreign journalists say the shorter timeframes will make it harder for them to live and work in the U.S. Homeland Security says the change is necessary to better vet visa holders.
President Trump says Darlene Graham, the sister of the late Lindsey Graham, has his support to run for a full term to replace her brother in the United States Senate. On Wall Street, the Dow down by 406 points, the Nasdaq dropped 361, the S&P lower by 76. More at townhall.com.
You've probably heard all those ads for life insurance. Just a few dollars a day, apply online in minutes, no medical exam. Simple, easy, and cheap, right? Now you're thinking, maybe I should get a quote. Well, smart thinking. Everyone should have life insurance. But here's what they don't tell you. Those few dollars a day rates, they're for young people in perfect health. That's why everyone calls Big Lou the 50 to 60-year-old not-so-perfect candidate. Like you. You take prescription meds, and you're overweight. Winner, winner, fried chicken dinner. Well, Big Lou works with life insurance companies that want people like you, with no surprises after you apply. In fact, if you're a 50-year-old guy with a few health glitches, Lou could probably find you $1 million of term life coverage for about $200 a month. So, yeah, you need life insurance. But unless you're young and healthy, you gotta call Big Lou, because he's like you, older, heavier, and on meds, too. Get a quote right now at 800-555-2085, 800-555-2085, or biglou.com.
From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. An isolated thundershower still possible into the evening before the sun sets, and then they fade away. Otherwise, Saturday through Tuesday, we have a heat advisory, a low of 76 on Saturday, 92 for the high with a heat index of 100. There is a 20% chance for a spot thundershower in the afternoon to early evening Saturday as well. Sunday, a 30% chance for shower or storm. A weak front is in the area. Otherwise, hot and humid, a high of 91, heat index to 99. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Hey, Jamie Allman here for my good friend Harry Parker and the ultimate seafood dining experience at Gulf Shores, GulfShoresRestaurantAndGrill.com. Gulf Shores offering a unique dining experience with a vast, mouth-watering menu of all of your favorite delicious dishes, something for everyone's taste or palate. 3 convenient locations, Edwardville, Creve Coeur, and St. Peter's. Dine in, carry out. They've got a food truck, too. Friendly staff looking forward to seeing you, making your dining experience one you will remember. Gulf Shores RestaurantAndGrill.com.
You work hard, follow the rules, and get absolutely slammed by taxes. Your paycheck taxed, your property taxed, everything you buy taxed. Missouri's tax system isn't broken, it's rigged against you. The lawyers and lobbyists working for big corporations and the super rich buried over 200 loopholes for themselves in our tax code. While they pay nothing on the services they use, working families are taxed over and over. It's no wonder they're lying about Amendment 5. Our corrupt tax system is rigged in their favor. They're getting a free ride on your back. Don't believe their lies. The truth is, Amendment 5 closes loopholes exploited by the super rich and slashes taxes paid by Missouri's working families, phasing out income taxes and cutting property taxes. They finally pay what they owe while you keep what you earn. Vote yes on Amendment 5. Paid for by Missouri Promise PAC.
It's a brand new show on News Talk STL. JC's Sunday Showgram.
Next Monday is the anniversary of the moon landing in 1969. I have some great stories. Plus, one of the strangest and most devastating weather events took place this week in 06. How many days was your power out? Plus, Roger Daltrey of The Who talks about his St. Louis area connection. All brought to you by the Weber Automotive Group.
Sunday morning, 7 to 9. Then podcast each Monday on NewsTalkSTL.com. Conservative talk for St. Louis.
It's your patriotic right and duty. The government needs to step up and do its job.
This is News Talk STL.
It's well-balanced conversation.
News, analysis, opinion. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now. They just cheat at any cost to win elections.
Nobody stands up. These people are crazy. I'm telling you, they're crazy.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
U.S. launching a new set of strikes here against Iran for the 6th straight day. Iranian state media now reporting that today's strikes hit 2 bridges and allegedly killed 7 people. Brand new video here just in. U.S. Central Command here showing U.S. Marines boarding a tanker in the Gulf of Oman. They say to verify compliance with the ongoing U.S. blockade. So far, U.S. forces have said to redirect 3 ships and disable 1 just since Tuesday.
And welcome back to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show here on a fantastic Friday. A little hot in the heartland, but it is mid-July. It's to be expected. July 17th, 2026. We have just crested mid-July. When we come back Monday, we're going to be barely 2 weeks away from the August 4th primary. Cannot believe it. Very important elections. We've been talking about Amendment 4, Amendment 5 quite a bit. There's important candidates on your ballot. There's all kinds of other issues. We'll continue to prepare you for it as we get closer. 5:07 in the p.m. Chris, subject to that clip there, or because of that clip, I'll bet you we'll be talking about very interesting things again with Jim Talent on Monday. Probably going to be some activity this weekend in the Middle East.
Yeah, we talked about it yesterday with Steve Bucci, that Iran said that if their infrastructure was hit, that they were going to ask their Houthi rebels to close another important waterway that the world's oil goes through. And in retaliation for these infrastructure strikes, Iran has now struck infrastructure in Kuwait and a couple of their other Arab neighbors. So it looks like the war here is escalating.
Indeed. Chris, I want to go. I got to do some speech in a second, but I want to give a big shout out to the St. Charles County Pachyderms.
Oh, yeah.
I spoke to them at their monthly luncheon today. That is I did not expect the crowd.
Yeah.
That is a legit club. A lot of times we're like, oh, yeah, the cute little, this group and that group and the other group, and they'll have 15, 20 people. It was packed wall to wall. I don't know how many people there are, 50, 60 people at the B Halls restaurant in O'Fallon. And I was invited to speak about Amendment 4 and Amendment 5. Dr. Bob Onder was supposed to join me, but he had a little bit of a business emergency he had to tend to. He's fine. We just talked to him. He's all good. And so I had to cover both of those. I was like, oh, boy. The crowd couldn't have been more polite. They were very attentive. They asked really tough questions. And, Chris, a bunch of them came up to me afterwards and said, you know what? I really enjoyed your explanation. I'm voting for Amendment 5. You changed my mind.
Good deal. Yeah,
So-
I've spoken to them a couple of times. I did last year. They wanted me to speak on my trip to Israel when I was in bomb shelters. Did you see our good friend Linda Raxdale? She is a member there. She's usually at all of those meetings. Did you see her?
She wasn't there today, but a lot of names of people that you will very much recognize, some of the old faithful, some new folks. It was a great crowd. I really appreciated their attentiveness. You know, we've been doing, I've told everybody, I am working for the Amendment 5 campaign. I believe in cutting the eliminating income tax. Don't know if we're going to win or lose. We're going to run through the tape, and we hope we do. But win or lose, I have had a great experience this summer. It has been fascinating helping run a statewide campaign. I've met a lot of very interesting people, a lot of motivated people, got a really good team working for us all over the state. Really, some young people, some new young Republican conservatives, really fantastic folks. But that group today, the town halls have been a mixed bag, right? There's been some really awesome ones. There's been some where everybody comes in all cranky and lets you know about it the whole time. Today's meeting was excellent. It was one of the largest crowds I've spoken with. They were they wanted to know what the proposals were. So I tried to explain it as best I could with no political BS, and I just gave them the facts, and they said they appreciated hearing all that.
I think you could say respectfully when you address the St. Charles County Pachyderm that you are speaking to adults.
Very much. That's what I enjoy.
If you want to characterize it, you're speaking to adults who follow politics very closely and want to be informed. They want to learn. They're not there to razz you and give you a hard time. They're there to want to learn.
And I listened to some of they talked about some other topics too. And let me tell you, that is a group of patriotic Americans over there. They're very concerned about the way our country's going. They're great Americans. Many of them are very successful business owners. So big shout out to the St. Charles County Pachyderms. Thank you as always for inviting Chris and me and all the other great speakers you have, and it's an honor and privilege to talk to you. A lot of them asked me about the radio station, met some people who needed to know where the radio station was on the dial, and so I told them that. So I think we picked up some new listeners today as well, and so it was a really great experience all around.
Give the restaurant a shout-out. I know when I went last time, I had a great roast beef au jus sandwich there. They've got good food there.
It is called B. Hall's. I know that's a funny name. It's called B. Hall's Family Grill.
Good food.
B. Hall. I guess that's the name of the owner. B. Period Hall. So B. Hall's Family Grill. If they want to be an advertiser, we'd be happy to have them. They're up at Monticello Plaza Drive in Weldon Spring, Missouri. So or on O'Fallon. Yeah. So really great place in St. Charles, and they obviously host the Pachyderms there, and they had the whole back room just wall to wall people. There wasn't a chair in sight.
That's every meeting, too.
Really great people. All right. We've got Patrick Tuohey coming up. Then we've got the epic of all epics, the Odyssey. Joey, this movie's what, 3,000 years in the making?
That's what they say, and we'll find out if the Hazelwood School District let down Chris and I. We may come off as real dummies during this review at 5:45.
Never discuss it. One thing I want to know about before you get into that, do they have like an epic soundtrack? Because, you need an epic soundtrack for a movie like that, I would think.
It is nonstop with Chris Nolan movies, and the same as with this. He'll have it scored wall to wall. It's crazy. You'd think those violinists behind the screen would get tired.
And for those of you who forgot your Greek epic poems, just to remind you, the Odyssey is an ancient Greek epic poem attributed to Homer that follows the hero Odysseus on a grueling 10-year journey home. Boy, we complain about air travel, huh? 10-year journey home by sea to Ithaca after fighting in the Trojan War. Facing angry gods, mythological monsters, and disloyal men, he fights to reunite with his wife Penelope and reclaim his kingdom. It is an epic story. And Chris, a lot of the allegories and the analogies and the allusions in that have lasted thousands of years, and we still talk about them today. When we say, I'm stuck between Scylla and Charybdis, which made its way into a famous police song.
And just a correction, we are not talking about Homer Simpson.
We are not.
Okay.
No, yeah, we are not. So this is the sequel. So you had the Iliad, right, which I don't think I ever read the Iliad. The Iliad was the Trojan War, right, Helen of Troy, and the Trojan horse and all that stuff, the big wooden horse, and they all hid inside of it. They did that a few years ago with That was kind of a very pretty movie, right, Joey? With Matt Damon and all the pretty people. They all looked really pretty for the time, you know?
Not Matt Damon, but Brad Pitt. Same
Brad
basic
Pitt.
guy. All these white people
Brad
look
Pitt.
alike
They
to me,
do.
too. Yeah.
Well, everybody in that movie looked really pretty. You know, I'm like, shouldn't they be really dirty?
Yeah.
Like fighting a war in ancient Troy, you know? I don't know. So this movie sounds like it's maybe a little grittier, maybe a little realistic. Christopher Nolan?
A couple black people in there, too.
What?
Really,
Are they
really
slaves?
weird.
They're slaves, aren't they?
Oh, they got all sorts of black
Oh, okay.
people. You need
All
to
right.
get with the times, Chris.
Well, we never read Homer in school, remember?
So that's what the Odyssey's all about. So we're going to find out from Joey if this thing lives up to the hype. There's been a lot of controversy and like there is around all these blockbusters, about some of the casting decisions and the storyline. So we're going to find out from Joey, how did they do and will they make their money back and then some? All right, without further ado, let's get to today's Speaker Stump Speech.
Listen to me, listen to me.
I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius.
It's time for the Speaker's Stump Speech, sponsored by Hanson's Tree Service at hansonstree.com.
So, M.D. Kittle, writing for The Federalist today, echoing Donald Trump's comments and his speech last night, writes, Trump's declassified documents detail massive Michigan voter registration fraud. Now, Donald Trump didn't get into many specifics last night. I'm sure he does that a lot, right? He'll have a big announcement, and he'll give you the 35,000 foot. He gets everybody all riled up. He gets the media all pissed off. And then he lets the story, he's like a master showman. He lets the story play out in all of its glory over the next several weeks or months, right? He gives you the giant outline, the appetizer, and then here comes all the courses afterwards. Well, so Donald Trump did not mention Michigan. And he didn't say, yeah, and the election was rigged against me, and you know, he didn't go there. I think the media was probably thinking he was going to go there, and once again, he ducked away from that, and he just talked about the high-level issue of China trying to destroy our electoral system. Does anybody not believe that they're not? I think they probably are every day. Well, here's the first specific story that came out of that big primetime address last night. This is written by M.D. Kittle from The Federalist. Trump's declassified documents detail massive Michigan voter registration fraud. So here's the first concrete example in the first state regarding the first thing. The declassified records offer a window into a massive voter registration fraud operation in Muskegon, Michigan. And remember, Michigan was one of those states back in 2020 where everyone was like, what the heck is going on up there? Molly Hemingway was right, M.D. Kittle says. The 2020 election, it was rigged. The Federalist editor-in-chief in her 2021 book, Rigged, How the Media, Big Tech, and Democrats Seized Our Elections, laid out a compelling case that some big corrupting forces used COVID fear to get their man Joe Biden elected in 2020. See, you can have all different kinds of rigging. You can have all kinds of interference. And to prove that even the left has acknowledged that there was something afoot regarding the 2020 election, there was a very famous Time magazine piece almost about this same subject. I'll have to dig that back up and read it to you someday, because for those of you who haven't realized, Time magazine went way off the left-wing liberal cliff a long time ago. They're a very liberal operation now. They wrote a whole long treatise after the 2020 election about how there was collusion between big tech, big media, and big corporations to make sure that Donald Trump didn't get reelected. Now, they weren't necessarily arguing that anybody was specifically messing with voter machines or things like that. They were saying that there was all this misinformation out there, right? There was the suppression of the Hunter Biden laptop. That actually happened. There were things blamed on Donald Trump that he had no responsibility for. There was things that were said about Joe Biden that were patently untrue. So that whole point was it was basically a misinformation campaign. But Time magazine even wrote that story. Well, back to Molly Hemingway's book, where she talked about a similar concept of the media, big tech, and Democrats seizing our elections. She laid that case out in an actual book that she wrote 5 years ago. In the address to the nation on Thursday evening, Donald Trump walked through some of the more egregious attacks on election integrity and security in a 2020 election that government bureaucrats absurdly declared the most secure in American history. See, if they hadn't gone that far, I think a lot of people would have maybe forgotten about this by now, but they were so sure that Joe Biden, who ran a campaign from his basement, did it all on his lonesome and was so much more popular than Donald Trump, and it was just a popularity contest, and that nobody interfered in any way. Donald Trump, however, last night brought the receipts. During his primetime address, the White House, in live sequence, released 4 tranches of newly declassified documents from actual intelligence community files overseen by their Transparency Task Force. The records clearly expose and show China's meddling in the election and point to hundreds of thousands of non-citizens on state voter rolls. The president's news is shocking, said Hans von Spakovsky, someone who frequently appears on our airwaves, but not surprising given prior hacks of U.S. data by the Chinese. Did you know that happened? It has. The U.S. has been hacked by the communist Chinese. What should make Americans very angry is the cover-up. Isn't that what always gets people? To hide what happened and the failure to prosecute anyone for obvious politically partisan reasons, Hans von Spakovsky told The Federalist. Some of the more damning documents come from the FBI's investigation into a leftist voter registration scheme in swing state Michigan, where Joe Biden, as he did in other battlegrounds, claimed a narrow victory. Declassified records offer a window into a massive voter registration fraud operation in specifically Muskegon, Michigan, and a years-long investigation that tracked as many as 10,000 suspicious or forged registration forms submitted in the weeks right before the election. They also undercut the real big lie by Democrats and their accomplice media pals that election administration in the 2020 election is beyond reproach, and it was the most pristine election ever. The probe involved thousands of man-hours, interviews with former employees that witnesses say signed off on fictitious registration, and hired registration form pirates who traded, get this, marijuana and cash for voter regulation applications. Must be a fun gig. Trump said the Biden Justice Department slow-walked and eventually killed the entire case. The documents suggest the Criminal Division's Public Integrity Section did just that. Then Michigan's known leftist attorney general refused to press charges because the activity was discovered and broken up before Election Day. There were so many red flags. There were so many warnings, but everybody just basically whistled past the graveyard. It's a long piece, and I would urge you to look at it. It ends this way. In her testimony before the House Administration Committee in 2024, Molly Hemingway warned of the takeover of election administration by politically motivated private entities. Remember the Zuckerbucks? Instead of having election administration that is rigorously nonpartisan and impartial under the law, we have allowed the private takeover of government election offices by partisan oligarchs and the armies of activists who use their offices and their authorities to tilt the election towards favored entities. Look, I don't know that anybody wants to sit here and relitigate the entire 2020 election. Here's the point of all this. We don't want it to ever happen again. Our system of elections needs to be beyond reproach, or the constitutional republic that we have cherished for 250 years will be subject to implosion from within. And that's the stump speech for today.
You know, there's two aspects from President Trump's speech last night. One is many folks think this was an attempt to put pressure on Senate Republicans to pass the SAVE Act. And then you have the Democratic conspiracy theory folks are saying that the president's speech last night was trying to set it up so that if the Republicans do not do well in the midterms, he can claim that it was election fraud.
Yeah, I'm sure all the naysayers, they'll definitely have those theories. I think as we continue to see these problems, how about we clean up the voter rolls? And isn't it funny, Chris, how some of these blue states fight tooth and nail to never, ever, ever do that? You got to wonder why.
Yeah, and it's a straw man when they say that a lot of people, older people, don't have birth certificates. It'll be hard for them to get that, so they can't vote. But there's stipulations within all these laws that if you are an older person, you can be grandfathered in. They won't make it necessary to have a birth certificate. This is all just red herring straw men.
And as we've seen right here in the city of St. Louis, they even fight to keep the dead people on the rolls. Nobody wants to ever take anybody off those voter rolls so they can always keep sending out those ballots.
Exactly.
Hey, we've got Patrick Tuohey coming up next. Got a lot of topics to talk to Patrick about. We're going to talk about the KC World Cup. Did the projections meet the reality? What is the latest on the Kansas City Chiefs? Are they moving out of Missouri westward to Kansas or not? And what can St. Louis and KC learn about crime fighting in Baltimore. All of that is next on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show, 101.9, 94.1, News Talk STL.
You know I will be coming home.
Follow us on Rumble at News Talk STL.
I gotta hear it. I don't have to fear it. And I wanna rock your gypsy soul. Just like way back in the days of old. And together we will float into the mystic.
From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. An isolated thundershower still possible into the evening before the sun sets, and then they fade away. Otherwise, Saturday through Tuesday, we have a heat advisory, a low of 76 on Saturday, 92 for the high with a heat index of 100. There is a 20% chance for a spot thundershower in the afternoon to early evening Saturday as well. Sunday, a 30% chance for shower or storm. A weak front is in the area. Otherwise, hot and humid, a high of 91, heat index to 99. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
Hey everybody, it's your buddy Todd from The Right Mind Show. And here's my celebrity friend, Larry Hankin from Seinfeld and Breaking Bad.
I never wanted to end up, talking on the phone to Todd.
The Right Mind Show, Saturday afternoons at 5 on News Talk STL.
Never thought in my life that I'd be talking enthusiastically about my dentist and a dental office, but I love talking about the Dental Link. Dr. Link and his son Andrew, they run the practice. And, right away you can tell it's a different type of place. It doesn't feel like one of those cold clinical offices. It feels like a place where people actually enjoy working there, and that's because of Dr. Link and his son and their team. The staff, they're relaxed, they're professional, they're friendly, and that all starts with how Dr. Link treats his team. You can tell he treats them like family. Now, for me, this is personal. I've had dental implants done there at the Dental Link, and, of course, that's no small thing. That's serious dental work. They walked me through the whole process, step by step, no pressure, no confusion, just straight answers and making sure I was comfortable the whole time. Now, if you've been putting something like this off because you're nervous, look, I was nervous too. I get it, but here's what you should know. They offer many dental implants, which are less invasive. They have quicker recovery and a lot less discomfort than the traditional route. I tell you this. Getting my dental implants done at the Dental Link was a game changer. They look natural, they feel natural, and honestly, it gave me a level of confidence back I didn't even realize I was missing. If you've been thinking about dental implants or any type of dental work, just go talk to them. The Dental Link, they're located right there in Baldwin, right at 141 and Manchester. Hey, give them a call today at 636-496-8584. Or check them out online at thedentallink.com, thedentallink.com. Do good, do it well, have fun doing it. That's their motto.
When Donald Trump needs conservative votes to help pass his agenda for Missouri, Representative Trisha Burns never answers the call. Trisha Burns has missed 370 votes. Burns is bucking President Trump's priorities. Burns did not vote to stop DEI initiatives, prevent China from owning Missouri land, defund Planned Parenthood, and Burns did not vote to ban boys from girls' sports. Trisha Burns not showing up for Missouri and President Trump. Instead, Trisha Burns spends her time pulling pranks on the suicide prevention hotline. Yes, you heard that right. Trisha Burns lied to the police and staged a fake suicide emergency. She sent a series of messages to the hotline and said she, quote, had a gun to her head, end quote. When she got caught, she said there'd be no consequences because she's a politician. By August 4th, vote to show Trisha Burns that there are consequences to being bad at your job. Cut the Bull PAC paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising, not authorized by any candidate or candidate committee.
The Herzog Foundation is the vision of its founder, Stanley Herzog, and it exists to promote quality Christ-centered K-12 education nationwide.
Hi, this is Chris Stegall with the Herzog Foundation. We offer a wide variety of resources relevant to today's families, including a free online publication called The Lion. The lion is one of God's most majestic creatures, symbolizing strength and courage. Named for its attributes, the Lion publication carries articles covering a wide range of topics facing American families and culture, especially related to the education of children. The Lion can be found online at readlion.com. That's READ lion.com.
Sign up for The Lion at readlion.com and find dozens of must-read articles published every day. Visit readlion.com and subscribe for the weekly and daily digests so you never miss an article. Readlion.com. That's readlion.com.
Craving hot chicken so good it ruins all other hot chicken? Welcome to Slaps Hot Chicken. Juicy, bold, always done right. From no heat all the way up to the Reaper. Try our famous loaded fries, loaded mac and cheese, and the only loaded fried ravioli you can get. Grab a crispy slider, sink your teeth into our jumbo tenders, or treat yourself to our mouth-watering chicken and waffles. Slaps Hot Chicken, 5950 Highway 94 in Weldon Spring. You've got to come in and try it for yourself.
Since 1857, Brannicky Hardware in Bridgeton has been solving the problems the big box stores can't. 5 generations of family ownership, nearly 170 years of friendly, knowledgeable service, helping you find the right part the first time. From one of the area's largest selections of plumbing repair parts to paint, lawn and garden, electrical, and power tools. Plus, they're your authorized Steel dealer and service center. Shop local. Brannicky True Value Hardware on the Rock Road in Bridgeton and at BrannickyHardware.com.
This is so stupid.
St. Louis's.
Okay, I'm hanging up on you now.
Place to talk. News Talk STL. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
World Cup is over in Kansas City, but we're learning just how big it really was. The KC 2026 Organizing Committee is out with some eye-popping numbers. More than 400,000 people packed FIFA Fan Fest over its 19-day run. 413,000 fans filled Arrowhead for 6 matches, an average of almost 69,000 fans per match. Fans also registered for more than 215,000 Connect KC bus passes.
And now a man who comes alive when there's bad public policy in Missouri, Patrick Tuohey.
Show me the way.
And welcome back to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show.
You got into the music there.
I was all distracted by the famous theme song. Yeah, I was waiting to see what was going to happen next, and I'm like, oh wait, it's my turn. Yeah, Patrick, how you doing, my friend? It's Friday. You know, you get us when we're our goofiest.
I'm doing very well, thank you. I got some travel in this week, but I'm happy to be home.
Oh, very good. Did you go anywhere exciting? Anywhere interesting?
I went to Des Moines, Iowa. So
oh my God, you could have kept that one.
Well, my daughter's at school there. They do have Drake University, so that's pretty cool. You know.
Yeah, Drake is great, and they used to play a big role in presidential debates. I don't know if they still, but having the Iowa caucuses there really put them in the national spotlight.
I've been there.
Indeed. Patrick, the World Cup wrapping up this weekend. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I don't get the whole European-based soccer thing. I don't understand a clock that goes up, not down, never stops, always keeps running, extended time, additional time. I don't they call fouls, but like everything keeps going, and I just don't get it. But I did enjoy the games. The US had a nice little run there for a little while, and it's going to be an exciting couple days of the finals. Did Kansas City benefit from all this, Patrick, or did the reality not meet the projections?
Well, first of all, between the three of us, I'm wondering if it's time that Americans can stop pretending we care about soccer.
Thank you. I'm glad you said it.
But yeah, so look, it's a great opportunity for Kansas City to be the spotlight of the world and to show everybody how great we are, blah, blah, blah. The question is, did we make any money doing it? And I know a significant part of the audience, and I get this myself, says, stop being a wet blanket. It was a good time. It was a party, and it was a success. And that's all true. But the problem was it was an expensive success, if it was a success. It certainly was expensive. And when the state and when the city and all these localities chip in, they make the argument that, look, in Kansas City's case, we expect to make $35 million, so we're going to put in $15 million. And it's always that claim that it's not just going to be a good time. It's not just going to be a party. They say we're going to make money doing it. Now, it'll be a few months before the sales tax and hotel lodging tax numbers are out, so we won't know right away. but I've got all that data from last year. And so as soon as they put it out, I will know if we saw that bump, if we collected enough sales tax revenue to make up for what we put into it. We're hearing a lot now about the number of people who came to Fan Fest or went to the stadium, but that doesn't mean those people spent enough money. First of all, I'm always suspicious of those numbers because a lot of times that's the same people who went back several times. Those people may have just gone somewhere else in Kansas City had there not been FIFA here. So just saying that you've got people showing up in places doesn't really mean anything until you've got their spending data. I think, again, what's happened in Kansas City is the group KC 2026 that put out those numbers that the segment played at the beginning here. They were putting out all these numbers about hotels, about flights. It appears that none of those numbers lived up to expectation. So now they're just talking about the number of people who participated. And again, that may be great. We're going to find out if any of this actually made us money. And it was PBS who recently put out a piece just yesterday or the day before saying what Show Me Institute has been saying for years, which is these big events may be great, but they're not profit centers for the city or the state.
Patrick, I got a question here. You may not know the answer, but I've always been kind of curious. Why was Kansas City chosen over St. Louis? Look, we've got a 70,000-seat dome stadium that's empty. St. Louis is known as a soccer town. We have a downtown that needs revitalization. Why was KC chosen over St. Louis?
That's a great question. It hadn't occurred to me to wonder how they chose cities. I don't know the answer. Kansas City was the smallest market in the United States to host. That would be interesting to know. It may be that different cities just made pitches to the national FIFA organization that kind of put together the pitch to the international group. But I don't know. That's worth looking into.
Speaking to Patrick Tuohey of the Show Me Institute. Patrick, we have not heard much about the, I guess, alleged Chiefs deal that was struck last year after all the controversial special sessions and all that. It's been really quiet. Do you know what's going on that side of the state with where the Chiefs are going and for sure, and if this is all actually going to come to fruition?
Well, as I've told you before, I'm not 100% that the Chiefs are going to move at all. And the reason for that is Kansas hasn't come to terms with exactly what this is going to cost them yet. And Kansas is having a gubernatorial election this year, so I don't think we're going to hear any numbers until after that election is settled, because I suspect there's going to be some great sticker shock. Now, 2 weeks ago, the Chiefs did put out about a 2-page press statement where they, trumpeted all the benefits to Kansas of building this. And they, importantly, they gave us another estimate of cost, and cost went up about 12% from what they had told us in December. But the economic benefit, and I'm making air quotes when I say that, the economic benefit almost doubled, $8.2 billion. And they didn't just claim Kansas, they included the greater Kansas City area, which of course includes lots of Missouri. So they're increasing the return on investment, but they're not talking about the investment. And I think there's a reason for that, which is they're beginning to realize that this deal isn't going to work unless they get state taxpayers to actually back these bonds. And just briefly, there are three shoes to drop. The first is, they say that, well, the stadium's just going to be paid for by all the economic activity that happens at the site. But the site is 300 square miles in the middle of Kansas. And the Secretary of Commerce is allowed to make that district as big or as small as he wants. And so it may get bigger than that 300 miles. And of course, every dollar spent that's over and above, the taxes they collect now is going to go to the Chiefs. So if you buy a hot dog 10 miles away from Chiefs Stadium, in the off season, that may help pay for, that's considered in the district. The second thing is, you and I would think, all right, well, they're going to give it this basic TIF. And what they do is they say, all right, now that we've started construction, we kind of look at the number. What is Kansas collecting in state sales tax? And every dollar that comes in above that, once we start construction, is going to go to the chiefs. However, that same deal says that same Secretary of Commerce not only decides the size of the district, he could decide the year that clock starts. It may not be 2026 or 2025. It could be 2020. It could be 2015. And so that would hoover up a great deal of money. And I think that's something that the people will be very upset about if it goes back too far. And then, of course, the third thing is I suspect they have had their, bond insurer lawyers look at this and say, this deal isn't going to work unless the state says, if this project can't meet its bond debt, taxpayers will back it up. I suspect that's the third thing. And I think these guys have had enough time to look at it that they're very nervous, and they're going to have to go back to taxpayers for a burden that I think taxpayers are not willing to pay, which is why I think it is not a done deal that the chiefs leave at all. We're seeing a lot of smoke, but they're not giving us the fire yet.
Wow.
Patrick, Governor Kehoe this week signed a tax incentive package to revitalize downtown, specifically for office buildings that are vacant, like the AT&T building here in St. Louis. The KC city government paid $350,000 for an economic development study, and the KC Business Journal called it a hot box of poo. Can you expound on that?
Yeah, that was great fun. So this was a few years ago. And, what happens, and it happens all over, it happens all over everywhere, which is these people who spend taxpayer money on subsidies keep saying, hey, there's a great return. We're all going to be richer. Our hair is going to be thicker. Our teeth are going to be whiter. It's going to be good for all of us. And then they never actually do the research to demonstrate that stuff. Now, Show Me Institute does the research, and academics around the country do the research. And, of course, that research all says you're wasting money. So in 2018, Kansas City got together and they said, let's do our own study. They put out an RFP. They got 8 companies or 8 organizations that responded. 7 of them were economic research firms. And the 8th one was a trade association of tourism bureaus. They came in at the highest bid. The city chose them and paid them even more than they bid. And the study was just an embarrassment. It said that every dollar of economic incentive the city spends yields almost $4 in return, which of course is just absurd. And after that report came out, I did a huge open records request and got all their emails and found out that they were, a number of the people associated with the research were absolutely conflicted. And there were all sorts of emails between city staff and the researchers basically saying, can you please cook the books for us? And when the study finally came out, even city council members looked at it and said, this is garbage. And like you said, the Business Journal called it a hot box of poo, and which made me laugh at the time. And I just dusted that off recently because we had a member of our city council in Kansas City who sits on a number of these boards that give out subsidies admit that she has no idea if they work. And that made me crazy. So I went back and read that old report, and I had forgotten how funny it was. And so, I reposted that. But again, look, the hard work of running a city, as I've told you guys, I think every time I speak with you, is it's public safety.
Yes.
It's cleaning up the streets. All the subsidies in the world don't make a company move into your downtown if your downtown is ugly, vacant, and unsafe. So the city, the state needs to focus on those basics, and then they'll get good things. But you can't skip all that and think you're going to get investment.
Well stated indeed. Patrick, we'd love to keep talking to you, but as you know, we have an epic movie, literally, to cover next. And you were wondering how you didn't know we had such a famous executive producer here, that he gets all these advanced screenings and all this exclusive VIP access, did you?
It's crazy. I need to hang out with Joey more often.
There you go.
He's getting all the perks.
We all do. We all do indeed. That's Patrick Tuohey. You can look him up, showmeinstitute.org. He's very prolific on Twitter X as well, at Patrick Tuohey on Twitter X. Patrick, thanks for everything as always. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, sir. Have a great weekend.
Yeah, you too, guys. Take care.
Thank you as well. There goes Patrick Tuohey. All right, the moment we've all been waiting for. The Odyssey. Does it live up to the hype? Will it make all those bazillions of dollars back or not? Joey V's got all the answers to that. The plot line, the actors, the sequences. Is it worth the 3 hours? Can Chris and I possibly make it through such a film? All those questions answered next on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show, 1019, 94.1 News Talk STL.
Like us on Facebook at News Talk STL. From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. An isolated thundershower still possible into the evening before the sun sets, and then they fade away. Otherwise, Saturday through Tuesday, we have a heat advisory, a low of 76 on Saturday, 92 for the high with a heat index of 100. There is a 20% chance for a spot thundershower in the afternoon to early evening Saturday as well. Sunday, a 30% chance for a shower or storm. A weak front is in the area. Otherwise, hot and humid, a high of 91, heat index to 99. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
Let's take a break.
Good idea.
Hey, Tom, what are you doing on that Amendment 4?
You know we fought for our freedom and rights. I'm not giving them away without a fight.
4 takes them?
That's exactly what 4 does. For over 100 years, Missouri voters have used our constitutional power to act when the politicians refused. I'll be darned if I'm voting to pass on less freedom and power to my kids.
And doesn't 4 also kill majority rule?
Yup. Creates minority rule, where just 5% of the most liberal statewide voters in one Missouri congressional district that block any citizen-led reform, making it nearly impossible to pass common-sense conservative citizen ballot measures.
That's crazy town stuff.
And we've needed our citizen ballot measure power to pass some big conservative stuff, like outlawing tax hikes without voter approval, lobbyist reforms, and term limits for career politicians.
No way I'm letting a tiny fraction of liberals derail our conservative power. I'm no on Amendment 4.
Hard no on 4.
Petty 4 buttons are inch per care governance.
This is Brandon from Reach. On July 18th, we are hosting Unfiltered, a one-day conference for youth and young adults where we'll be covering topics like relationships, identity, purpose, faith, and culture. We will have breakout sessions, worship, and real community for young adults to encounter. If you know a student or a young adult who needs to be in the room, get them signed up. Spots are limited, so don't wait. Register now at unfilteredstl.com.
Hey there, Chris Cooper here, your financial friend with Serenity Wealth Management. Tune into the Serenity Wealth Now show this Sunday right here on News Talk STL, 9 a.m. This week's special guest, Rob Haig of Fortis Capital Advisors, a financial advisor, an advisor for other advisors, and a son to parents who've had an interesting conversation about long-term care recently. He's going to share his story with us right here on the Serenity Wealth Now show, Sunday morning, 9 a.m. Tune in right here on News Talk STL.
Investment advice offered through Fortis Capital Advisors, LLC.
You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Tell me what you remember.
A wife, a son. Help me go home.
Ithaca's king is coming back.
No, he's not.
My dad is coming home.
No one could stand between me and home. Not even the gods.
5:48, and that is the trailer for the most anticipated movie of the year, The Odyssey.
Sounds wild.
How many toasted rafts out of 5 will Joy give it? Let's find out.
Joey, baby, what movie are you playing?
Brought to you by Harry J's Steakhouse, Freddy's Market, AAA Motor Speedway, and Best Buy Flooring.
The Odyssey is a mythic action epic that adapts Homer's 3,000-year-old poem, and Matt Damon plays Odysseus as he faces a dangerous voyage back home to Ithaca after the Trojan War, meeting creatures like the Cyclops and the Sirens along the way. And this thing is 3 hours long. It cost $250 million. They're putting another $125 million into marketing. It's the first blockbuster feature film that's filmed entirely on IMAX 70mm film. They filmed it in real locations across 6 continents, and they filmed it for 91 days. And it's Christopher Nolan's first movie since 2023's Oppenheimer swept the world by storm. It made $1 billion. It won every Oscar that was possible: Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor, Best Supporting Actor, Cinematography. So it's clear to say that The Odyssey is the most anticipated movie of the year. And I want to preface this by saying I'm an idiot. I am a product of the Hazelwood School District.
So am I.
And they never taught me about Homer's The Odyssey. And anything I ever picked up about some of these creatures and this fable, I probably picked up from Looney Tunes cartoons. Chris, you're a product of the Hazelwood School District. Did you ever read this poem, The Odyssey?
Never read the poem, The Odyssey. I did hear about Homer. I did hear about some of his characters, but we never read this at all. And that's a question I have for you. Do you need to have kind of a knowledge of the poem to enjoy it, or is it just that good of a film?
They throw you in the deep end, right, when the movie starts. I mean, the first 20 minutes, I felt like an idiot. I felt like I was lost. It was a little slow, and I didn't know who these characters were with these weird names. They're throwing them all at me. The story is being told out of order. It felt like you needed to know everything about this poem before you went in. And then that 20-minute mark hits, and this Cyclops shows up, and I'm just floored for the next 2 hours and 40 minutes. It was incredible. It shifts into another gear. Nonstop action, nonstop monsters. Does not feel like 3 hours. I mean, it's fast-paced editing. The music is just chugging along, propelling the story the whole time. And because you have all these creatures, it's like little adventures in between the big adventure of how to get back home. So when you're done with one story, you just go on to the next story. And then after the movie ends, you're like, holy cow, that was 3 hours. It didn't feel like that at all. And this is the most grounded version of the Odyssey you're ever going to see. This is not Harryhausen, claymation, Clash of the Titans type stuff. I mean, this is real sets, real boats, real oceans. They went to these countries. So you're just going to be blown away that this was all captured on film. And these actors are the biggest names in all of Hollywood. I mean, some of them may stick out for you. It depends on your relationship with some of these actors. You know, so if you see someone like John Leguizamo or Elliot Page, Tom Holland, Robert Pattinson, Mia Goth, they may take you out of the movie, but you know that they're having the time of their life. There's people who probably had one line on this and still flew across the country, and they were willing to be on set for, 23 hours in their trailer and 1 hour on set just to be in this. Everyone wants to work with Christopher Nolan because he makes these epics that they just don't make anymore. I was really excited that it was also all in regular, human, normal English. Some people are mad about this. If you heard the trailer there, they say, I need to get back to my dad. Someone who's 3,000 years old. They probably wouldn't say dad.
My father.
Yes, I need to get to my father. No one speaks with those weird British accents either. Everyone speaks in an American accent because the star is Matt Damon, and he is an American, and he uses his regular voice. So these
got a Boston accent?
These stupid Brits, like Robert Pattinson, Tom Holland, they were forced to use their Batman, Spider-Man accent. We didn't have to listen to them do their hoity-toity British stuff.
Good.
And I think that's the way all these movies should be. There is a little bit of trouble with these Nolan movies where you can't hear the dialogue sometimes. I had that trouble sometimes, but not too bad because, who cares? We're looking at monsters. But if you ever hear a review of Tenet, people always say that. I could not hear the dialogue. And they say, Nolan doesn't care about the dialogue. It doesn't matter. The one thing that really brought this down for me was the final fight scene. It is epic. It is people battling all over the place. There's weapons everywhere. People are getting murdered left and right. And it is filmed like it is a PG-13 movie. This is rated R, but there's no blood anywhere.
There needs to be some more reality.
You guys know me. I'm a gore hound.
Blood.
I love blood. It's the type
like
of thing
in Gladiator,
where someone gets their neck slit by an axe, and then they grab their throat with their hand. Like, well, he's got it covered up. You can't see it, and then he stumbles away. Or you really do think some of these spears are going just in the armpit. You just shove it in their armpit real quick. No one will notice. So that took me out of it when I'm supposed to be crying at the end of this movie. The big climactic battle, and I'm like, spill some blood, you guys. My guess is, since these are all real sets, that they're probably in like a 3,000-year-old castle in Greece, and the shopkeep is like, hey, my friend, please, no blood. Don't make a mess. Don't be making a mess here. And Christopher Nolan said, all right, I guess if you're letting us film here, I won't spill any blood. But that was such a bummer. Some of these actors, they're not natural like Matt Damon. Matt Damon, he's bringing a real humanistic energy to this guy, Odysseus. And he is just the guy you can relate to. But everyone else is kind of campy. They're landed on thick like they're doing Shakespeare on a stage, which makes sense for these stories. But, there's someone like Robert Pattinson. He plays Batman now. And he's like, I'm going to marry your mother. That sort of talking takes me out of it. I didn't love it. But I'm going to say right now, The Odyssey, it is a 4 toasted Rav type of movie. 4.5 toasted Rav.
Wow.
But because there's no blood, I'm taking off points. For me, 3.5 out of 5 toasted Ravs. But I had the time of my life watching this movie. I mean, there's no other place I would have rather been than in that theater, watching it in IMAX.
Now, some of the criticism that I read about this, and I really don't know because I don't know the stories. Tim, you could probably address this
Tim's
better.
an expert.
But one of the criticisms of the movie is that the director kind of downplayed some of the female characters that were in Homer. They didn't get as big of play. Your thoughts on that, Jim?
I went in this movie an idiot, and I came out a literary scholar. So anything that confused me while I was in there, I came out, and I've done my research. I know the names of these monsters now. I know the backstory. And yeah, there's this one woman who is a sex nymph and is banging Matt Damon nonstop. And it seems like he's the victim. Like, oh, I can't believe this beautiful woman would
leave me to the peril.
Stop banging me. I have a wife to get to. But in the book, he in the poem, he was really into banging her.
Right.
He was not innocent in this. So yeah, I get those.
Is that one of the sirens that got him?
That is the lotus lady. The one
lotus
who
lady.
feeds him the lotuses.
Okay.
Yeah, and, I don't mind that because I didn't know the story, so I had a lot of fun.
Chris, most of the poem is a bunch of dudes in a boat trying to get home. So there were some famous female parts, but the majority of the story is Odysseus and his guys in a boat trying to get home.
And that may be just modern-day Hollywood, where you have to have gay characters, you have to have females beating up men, and because they stuck to the story, some of the Hollywood libs are a little disappointed.
And I'm glad they stuck to the story because the argument before this came out was that he may not have stuck to the story. I'm hearing Joey say he felt like he was watching the travels of Odysseus back from Troy to Ithaca.
He did the same thing with Batman. You thought of the Adam West, just this hokey character, and then he brought realism. Christopher Nolan brought realism to Batman, so he's doing the same thing with Odysseus, and I respect it.
Talk about the IMAX. I mean, if you don't see it in IMAX, you still get that same experience just watching it on a regular screen.
You'll be fine, but when the bigger the screen, the better. So what is it? You just fake IMAX, right? And you just sit closer to the screen, front row seat.
Sounds good. That's Joey's review of The Odyssey. He gives it 3.5 toasted Ravs out of 5. The biggest, most anticipated movie of the year. Maybe a good movie to see this weekend. That is the Chris Arps and Tim Jones Show, or Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show, excuse me. Story behind the story, the TWA Flight 800 explosion. Larry will talk about that next. 1019 94.1 News Talk STL. Drive safe and have a great weekend.
Hungry for the best steak you'll ever have? Head to the heart of Moscow Mills and discover Harry J's, a local landmark and family-owned steakhouse, serving up excellence since '98. From mouth-watering appetizers to decadent desserts, Harry J's has something for everyone. Enjoy our extensive bar selection while soaking in our friendly family atmosphere. Whether dine-in or carry-out, your meal is prepared to perfection. Make the drive to 300 Main Street and treat yourself to a taste of Moscow Mills' finest. Harry J's, more than a